Jake Morrison wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the repaired power junction with satisfaction. Another job done right. He had been working at the Galactic Embassy on New Portland for 3 years now, keeping the old Earth-made systems running smoothly alongside the strange alien technology. It was not easy work, but Jake loved the challenge. The maintenance tunnels beneath the embassy were quiet at night. Most of the diplomats and staff had gone home hours ago. Jake preferred working the late shift. No one bothered him, and he could focus on the complex repairs without interruption. He gathered his tools and started walking back toward the elevator. That was when he heard it. A soft sound, almost like crying. Jake stopped and listened. There it was again, coming from one of the side passages. He grabbed his flashlight and moved carefully toward the noise. What he found made him freeze in shock. A woman sat huddled against the wall, her body covered in shimmering scales that reflected his light in rainbow colors. Large wings were folded tight against her back. Blood seeped from a wound on her shoulder. Her eyes, golden and reptilian, looked up at him with fear. Jake had seen many alien species during his time at the embassy, but he recognized this one. She was draconian. The dragon people rarely came to council worlds anymore. They had isolated themselves decades ago after some kind of conflict. "Please," she whispered in broken English. "Help me." Jake knew he should call security. Embassy protocol was clear about unregistered aliens on the grounds. But looking at her frightened face and the blood on her scales, he could not bring himself to do it. She was hurt and scared. She needed help. "Okay," he said softly, putting down his toolbox. "Let me see that wound." He approached slowly, showing his empty hands. The woman flinched but did not run. Jake examined the injury carefully. It looked like a burn from some kind of energy weapon. He had medical supplies in his work locker. Nothing fancy, but enough to clean and bandage the wound. "Stay here," he told her. "I will be right back." He ran to his locker and grabbed the first aid kit, along with some protein bars and a bottle of water. When he returned, she was still there, watching him with those strange golden eyes. Jake worked quickly, cleaning the wound and applying bandages. The woman hissed in pain but did not pull away. When he finished, he offered her the food and water. She took them gratefully, eating like she had not had a meal in days. "What is your name?" Jake asked. "Claire," she replied between bites. "I am Jake. Can you tell me what happened?" Claire looked at him for a long moment, as if deciding whether to trust him. "Bad people," she finally said. "They try to kill me. I hide here. Why would someone try to kill you?" She shook her head. "Cannot say. Too dangerous." Jake wanted to ask more questions, but he could see how exhausted she was. "You can rest here tonight." 2-3. "Thanks for watching," he said. This section of the tunnels is rarely used, but tomorrow we need to figure out what to do. Claire nodded, already looking drowsy. Jake left her with a blanket from the emergency supplies and headed back to finish his shift. His mind raced with questions and worries, but he had made his choice. He would help her. For the next 2 days, Jake brought Claire food and water during his shifts. Her wound was healing remarkably fast. She told him small things about herself, but avoided any details about why she was here or who had attacked her. Jake did not push. He figured she would tell him when she was ready. On the 3rd night, everything fell apart. Jake arrived for his shift to find security guards waiting at the elevator to the maintenance level. His supervisor, an older human man named Greg Peters, stood with them, looking grim. "Jake Morrison?" one of the guards asked. "Yes, that is me." "What is going on?" "Wow, you need to come with us. Ambassador Velshara wants to see you immediately." Jake's stomach dropped. Ambassador Velshara was the head Zenthari diplomat, one of the most powerful people at the embassy. He had only seen her from a distance before. She was tall and crystalline, with 4 arms and a face that looked carved from ice. They escorted him to the ambassador's office on the top floor. The room was huge and cold, decorated with strange geometric art. Velshara stood by the window, her body catching the light and throwing rainbow patterns on the walls. "Mr. Morrison," she said without turning around. Her voice was sharp and cold. "Do you know why you are here?" "No, Ambassador." She pressed a button on her desk. A screen lit up, showing security footage from the maintenance tunnels. Jake watched himself helping Claire, bringing her food, talking with her. His heart sank. "You have violated embassy protocol by harboring an unregistered alien," Velshara said, finally turning to face him. "Not just any alien, but a draconian. Do you understand the seriousness of this?" "She was hurt," Jake said. "She needed help. That is not your decision to make. You should have reported her to security immediately. She was scared and bleeding. I could not just leave her there." Velshara's crystalline face showed no emotion. "Your employment at this embassy is terminated, effective immediately. Your security clearance is revoked. You will be escorted from the grounds and prohibited from returning." "What about Claire? Is she okay?" "The draconian has been dealt with according to proper channels. That is no longer your concern." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. "I did the right thing. She needed help, and I helped her. If that costs me my job, fine. It will cost you more than your job," Velshara said coldly. "I am filing official complaints with both human authorities and the Galactic Council. Your actions have created a diplomatic incident. You will find it very difficult to find work off-world again." 2 guards took Jake's arms and led him out. They went to his locker, watched him pack his personal items, and then walked him out of the embassy. Just like that, 3 years of work were over. Jake stood outside the gates with his box of belongings, watching the embassy lights in the distance. He had helped someone who needed it. He could not regret that, no matter what it cost him. But as he walked back to his apartment in the dark, Jake wondered what would happen next, and he wondered what had happened to Claire. 3 days passed slowly for Jake. He spent his time searching for work, but the results were disappointing. Every company he contacted seemed to already know about his termination from the embassy. Some apologized but said they could not risk hiring him. Others simply stopped returning his messages. His savings account was getting smaller. Rent was due in 2 weeks. Jake had started thinking seriously about buying a ticket back to Earth. Maybe he could find work there, away from the colonies and the complications of galactic politics. On the 3rd night, Jake sat in his small apartment eating a simple dinner and watching the news. The reporter was talking about rising tensions between the Galactic Council and some Outer Rim territories, nothing that affected him directly. He was about to turn it off and go to bed when he heard a tapping sound at his window. Jake lived on the 4th floor. There should not be anything tapping at his window. He got up carefully and looked out. His heart nearly stopped. Claire hung in the air outside, her wings spread wide and beating slowly to keep her hovering. She looked completely healed, her scales gleaming in the city lights. When she saw him, she smiled and pointed down at the fire escape. Jake opened the window, and she landed gracefully on the metal platform. He helped her climb inside, then quickly closed the window and the curtains. "Claire, how did you find me? Are you okay?" "I am well now," she said. Her English was much better than before. "I found you through embassy records. I wanted to thank you for what you did. The ambassador said you were dealt with. I was worried they hurt you." Claire's face darkened. "They tried to send me away, but I escaped. I need to tell you the truth, Jake. I need you to understand what you did by helping me." She sat down on his worn couch, and Jake took the chair across from her. "I am listening," he said. "My full name is Claire Sullivan. I am a princess of the Draconian sovereignty. My father is High Commander Drake Sullivan, leader of our military forces." Jake stared at her. "You are royalty?" "Yes. I came to New Portland on a secret mission. For many years, my people have stayed away from the Galactic Council. We had disagreements in the past, and we chose to be alone. But now there is a new threat. The Keshtar Union is expanding, taking over smaller worlds. They are strong and getting stronger. We realized we cannot face them alone. So you came here to talk to the council? Claire nodded. Not officially. Not yet. I came to meet with certain ambassadors in secret, to see if peace was possible. But someone found out. I was attacked in the streets. The weapons they used were Zenthari energy blasters. I barely escaped into the embassy tunnels. That is where you found me. Jake felt his mind racing. You think Ambassador Velshara was involved? I suspect it, but I cannot prove it. The Zenthari have been making deals with the Keshtar Union. They benefit from keeping my people isolated. If the Draconians join the council, it changes the balance of power. That is why she was so angry about me helping you. It was not about protocol at all. No, she wanted me gone or dead. You complicated her plans. Claire reached into a pocket and pulled out a small silver device. This is a communicator. It works across star systems. If you ever need help, press this button and it will reach me or my family. Jake took the device carefully. Why are you giving this to me? Because you showed honor when you had nothing to gain. You risked your job and your future to help a stranger. My people value such things highly. We do not forget our debts. I just did what anyone should do. Claire smiled sadly. Most people do not. Most people follow rules even when rules are wrong. You are different, Jake Morrison. My father will want to meet you someday. Your father? The military commander? Yes. I have already sent him a full report about what happened. About the attack. About you. About everything. He is not happy that I was in danger. He is even less happy that the person who saved me is being punished. A chill ran down Jake's spine. Claire, what is your father going to do? I do not know yet, but the draconian sovereignty protects those who protect us. That is our way. She stood up and moved toward the window. I must go now. It is not safe for either of us if I stay too long. But remember, you have friends now. Powerful friends. Wait, Jake said. What should I do? Be careful. The people who attacked me know you helped me. They may come for you too. Keep that communicator close. She opened the window and climbed out onto the fire escape. Her wings spread wide, catching the night breeze. Thank you again, Jake. You will understand soon why your kindness matters so much. Then she was gone, disappearing into the dark sky above the city. Jake closed the window and looked at the silver communicator in his hand. It was small and light, covered in symbols he could not read. He slipped it into his pocket and tried to calm his racing heart. Sleep did not come easily that night. Jake lay in bed thinking about everything Claire had told him. A princess. A secret mission. Assassins with Zenthari weapons. And now her father, a military commander, knew everything. Jake was not sure if that made him feel safer or more worried. The next morning answered that question. Jake woke to loud pounding on his door. He stumbled out of bed and opened it to find 4 colonial security officers standing in the hallway. Jake Morrison? The lead officer asked. Yes, you are under arrest for espionage and aiding an enemy combatant. Put your hands behind your back. Jake's mind went blank with shock. What? That is crazy. I did not do anything wrong. You can explain that at your hearing. Hands behind your back, please. They put handcuffs on him and led him out of his apartment building. Neighbors watched from their doorways as he was taken away. A police transport waited outside. They drove him to the Colonial Detention Center, a gray building on the edge of the city. At the center, they processed him like a criminal. They took his picture, his fingerprints, and all his possessions, including the communicator Claire had given him. Jake tried to protest, tried to explain, but no one would listen. Finally, they put him in a small cell with a hard bed and a tiny window. Through the bars, a guard told him his hearing would be in 2 weeks. Until then, he would stay here. Jake sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. How had everything gone so wrong, so fast? He had just tried to help someone who was hurt. Now, he was in jail. Charged with crimes he did not understand. The guard came back an hour later and handed him a datapad. "Your charges and evidence," the guard said. Jake read through the documents with growing horror. According to the files, he had been in contact with draconian agents for months. There were fake financial records showing payments to his account. There were supposed communications between him and foreign operatives. All of it was lies, but it looked real. At the bottom of the file, he saw the name of the person who had filed the charges: Ambassador Velshara. She had not been satisfied with just firing him. She wanted to destroy him completely. Jake leaned back against the cold wall of his cell. Claire had warned him that the people who attacked her might come for him. She was right. And they were using the legal system to do it. He had no lawyer, no evidence to prove his innocence, and no way to contact anyone who could help. The silver communicator was gone, taken with his other things. He could not even reach Claire to tell her what had happened. Jake closed his eyes and tried not to let fear take over. He had done the right thing. He had to believe that somehow the truth would come out. But sitting alone in that cell, with 2 weeks until a hearing he would probably lose, it was hard to keep believing. The detention center had a common room where prisoners could watch news broadcasts for 1 hour each day. Jake spent that hour glued to the screen, trying to understand what was happening outside his cell. What he saw was not encouraging. His case had become famous. Ambassador Velshara was using it as proof that humans were not ready for important positions in galactic society. She appeared on news programs almost every day, her crystalline face cold and certain as she spoke about human emotional weakness and poor judgment. "This mechanic put his feelings above diplomatic security," she said in one interview. "He harbored a fugitive from a hostile power. He violated every protocol. This is what happens when you give humans responsibility they cannot handle." 1. These Ramans. 1. Other council members were starting to agree with her. Jake watched debates where alien diplomats argued that Earth's admission to the Galactic Council had been too fast. Some called for humans to be given only limited roles until they proved themselves more reliable. The human diplomats tried to defend him. Colonial Governor Lisa Patterson held a press conference saying Jake was innocent until proven guilty. Earth's council representative, Ambassador Eric Stone, demanded a fair investigation, but their voices were getting lost in the noise. The evidence against Jake kept growing. Every day, Velshara's team released new documents: fake emails, fake bank records, fake travel logs showing meetings with draconian agents that never happened. It was all lies, but it looked convincing. Someone had spent a lot of time building this false case. Jake's appointed lawyer was a young human named Ben Cooper, fresh out of law school and clearly overwhelmed. He visited Jake in his cell and tried to sound hopeful, but Jake could see the worry in his eyes. "The evidence against you is strong," Ben said, looking through his notes. "Can we show that the documents were created recently? Check their digital signatures or something?" I tried. Whoever made these files was very good. They look like they have existed for months. Ben sighed and set down his pad. "I am going to be honest with you, Jake. The magistrate assigned to your case is Zenthari, one of Velshara's own people. The odds are not good. So what do? We tell the truth and hope someone listens." The trial began on a gray morning 2 weeks after Jake's arrest. The courthouse was packed with reporters and observers from dozens of different species. The case had become a symbol of human-alien relations, and everyone wanted to see how it would end. Jake wore simple clothes they had given him. He sat next to Ben at the defense table and tried not to look at the crowds. Across the room, the prosecution team sat confident and prepared. Above them all, Magistrate Krelna presided, a tall Zenthari with a face even colder than Velshara's. The prosecution presented their case first. They showed all the fake evidence, making it look like Jake had been a spy for months. They brought in expert witnesses who testified about the documents. They painted Jake as a traitor who had betrayed his position for money and ideology. Ben did his best to fight back. He pointed out that Jake had an excellent work record before this incident. He questioned the timing of the evidence appearing. He tried to create doubt, but without proof that the documents were fake, his arguments felt weak. On the third day of the trial, as the prosecution was giving their final argument, something strange happened. The lights in the courtroom flickered. Then, they went out completely. Emergency lights came on, casting everything in dim red. Someone shouted from the back of the room, "Look outside!" Everyone rushed to the windows. Jake followed, his guards staying close. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. The sky above New Portland had changed. Where there had been blue sky and clouds, now there were ships, hundreds of them, massive vessels that blocked out the sun, casting the whole city into shadow. They were sleek and dangerous looking, covered in dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Dragon symbols marked their hulls. "It is the Draconian Armada," someone whispered. "They are here." The courthouse erupted into chaos. People ran for the exits. Alien diplomats activated their communicators, calling for instructions. The guards around Jake looked uncertain, their hands on their weapons, but not sure what to do. Magistrate Krelna struck his gavel, trying to restore order. "Everyone remain calm. This trial is suspended until further notice. Return the prisoner to detention. Mani calm. RC." But before the guards could move, every screen in the courthouse came to life. Every television, every computer monitor, every communicator. They all showed the same thing: a draconian command center. And at its center, a massive figure in military armor. High Commander Drake Sullivan looked directly into the cameras. His face was like Claire's, but harder, with scars from old battles marking his scaled skin. His eyes were the same golden color, but filled with authority that made even through a screen feel his power. "People of New Portland," he said. His voice was deep and clear. "People of the Galactic Council, I am High Commander Sullivan of the Draconian Sovereignty. I have come to speak about justice." The entire room went silent. Even the magistrates stopped trying to restore order. "My daughter, Princess Claire Sullivan, came to your world on a mission of peace. She was attacked by assassins using Zenthari weapons. She was wounded and alone. A human mechanic named Jake Morrison found her and saved her life." Sullivan's face hardened. Now this human is being prosecuted for his compassion. False evidence has been created to paint him as a criminal. The person responsible for these lies is Ambassador Velshara, who also arranged the attack on my daughter. Velshara, watching from her estate across the city, felt ice form in her veins. "I have come to ensure that justice is served," Sullivan continued. "Not to make war, though my fleet is prepared for that if necessary. I demand 3 things. First, Jake Morrison must be released immediately, and all charges dropped. Second, there must be a full investigation into the attack on my daughter. Third, Ambassador Velshara must be removed from her position and face trial for her crimes." He leaned forward, and his eyes seemed to look at each person individually. "The Draconian Sovereignty has been separate from your council for many years. We chose isolation to avoid conflict. But we will not stand silent while an innocent person is destroyed and our princess's attackers go free. You have 24 hours to respond to these demands. If justice is not served, we will serve it ourselves." The screens went dark. For a long moment, no one moved or spoke. Then everyone started talking at once. The magistrate tried to maintain order, but gave up. The trial was over, at least for now. Jake was led back to his cell in a daze. The guards were nervous, talking quietly to each other about the fleet overhead. One of them, a middle-aged human woman, gave Jake a small smile as she locked his cell. "Looks like you have some powerful friends," she said. Jake sat on his bed and looked out the tiny window. He could see the edge of one of the massive ships, dark against the sky. Claire had said her father would not be happy. She had not mentioned he would bring an entire armada. Across the city, Colonial Governor Patterson called an emergency meeting with every important official on the planet. Earth's Ambassador Stone contacted his superiors and requested immediate instructions. Alien diplomats evacuated their staff, not wanting to be caught if fighting started. And in her estate in the diplomatic district, Ambassador Velshara stood on her balcony and watched the fleet above. Her Keshtar allies were hours away at best. She had counted on the Draconians staying isolated, on their pride keeping them from interfering in council business. She had been wrong. And now everything was falling apart. The city of New Portland had never been so quiet. People stayed in their homes, watching the news and looking up at the massive ships that filled the sky. The Draconian fleet maintained perfect formation, weapons powered but not aimed. They were waiting. In her estate, Ambassador Velshara paced back and forth. Her usual calm was gone. She had spent the morning in emergency communications with her government and her Keshtar allies. The responses were not helpful. The Zenthari government was furious with her. They had sent messages ordering her to cooperate fully with any investigation. They did not want war with the Draconians. The cost would be too high. The Keshtar Union had promised to send ships, but they were still days away. And even when they arrived, no one was sure they could match the Draconian Armada. The Dragon people had been isolated for years, but their military technology had not stood still. If anything, it had advanced beyond what the council had. Velshara stopped pacing and looked out her window at the city below. She had worked so hard to build her position, to gain influence and power. The Keshtar had paid her well for information, for delays, for keeping the Draconians isolated. It had all been going according to plan until one stupid human had decided to be heroic. She picked up her communicator and sent a message to the local news networks. If the Zenthari government would not support her, she would take her case to the public. Within an hour, she was on every channel. The Draconian fleet's presence here is an act of war, she said, her voice sharp and clear. They are trying to dictate terms to the Galactic Council through force. If we give in to their demands, what happens next time? Any species with a strong military can ignore our laws and do whatever they want. She pointed at the camera. Jake Morrison violated embassy security. The evidence against him is clear. His trial was fair and legal. The Draconians have no right to interfere in our justice system. We must stand firm, even in the face of threats. The broadcast caused new debates across the colony and beyond. Some people agreed with her. Giving in to military threats did set a bad example. Others argued that the evidence against Jake had always seemed suspicious, and that maybe the Draconians had a point. Colonial Governor Patterson tried to walk a careful line. She contacted High Commander Sullivan directly, using secure channels. Jake, still in his cell, heard about the conversation later from Ben Cooper. The governor asked for more time, Ben explained. She wants to investigate Velshara's claims properly. But Sullivan said he has waited long enough. His daughter was almost killed. An innocent man is in jail. He wants action, not more delays. So what happens now? We wait and hope cooler heads win out. But cooler heads were in short supply. That afternoon, a group of Keshtar scout ships arrived in the system. They were smaller than the Draconian vessels, but fast and well-armed. They moved into defensive positions near the planet. The Draconian fleet responded immediately. Their larger ships shifted formation, creating clear firing lines. No shots were fired, but everyone could feel how close they were to violence. Then Claire herself did something no one expected. Her small, personal ship launched from the Draconian flagship and flew straight toward the planet's surface. Draconian fighters tried to escort her, but she waved them off. She was going alone. Air traffic control tried to deny her permission to land. She ignored them and brought her ship down right in front of the courthouse, in the middle of a busy plaza. People scattered as she landed. Colonial security surrounded her immediately. Claire stepped out of her ship, wearing formal Draconian dress that made her look even more like royalty. Her scales gleamed in the filtered light from the ships above. Her wings were folded but visible, reminding everyone what she was. "I am Princess Claire Sullivan," she announced to the security officers. "I am here to testify in the trial of Jake Morrison. I have information about my attack and about the person responsible. Will you prevent me from speaking the truth?" The security captain looked uncertain. He called his superiors. They called the governor. Within minutes, the decision was made. The trial would reconvene for an emergency session. Claire would be allowed to testify. News of this spread fast. The courthouse filled up again, even more crowded than before. Magistrate Krelna returned to his bench, clearly unhappy about the situation. The prosecution team looked worried. Ben Cooper looked hopeful for the first time since the trial began. Jake was brought from his cell to sit at the defense table. When Claire entered the courtroom, she looked directly at him and nodded once. He tried to smile back, but his face felt frozen. Claire was sworn in and took the witness stand. She sat straight and dignified, her golden eyes scanning the room before settling on the magistrate. "Please state your name and position," Magistrate Krelna said stiffly. "I am Claire Sullivan, Princess of the Draconian Sovereignty, daughter of High Commander Drake Sullivan." A murmur went through the crowd. Everyone had known who she was, but hearing her say it officially made it real. Ben Cooper stood up. "Princess Claire, can you tell the court why you came to New Portland?" "I came on a diplomatic mission. Unofficial, but approved by my father and our council. We wanted to explore the possibility of rejoining the Galactic Council. There are threats facing all of us, threats that require cooperation." "What happened to you here?" Claire's face hardened. "I was attacked. 3 individuals with energy weapons ambushed me in the street. They tried to kill me. I barely escaped into the embassy maintenance tunnels." "Did you recognize your attackers?" "No, they wore masks. But I recognized their weapons. Zenthari military energy blasters, the new model that has not been sold to other species yet." The murmur in the courtroom grew louder. Velshara, watching from her estate, felt her hands clench. "What happened in the tunnels?" Ben asked. "I was wounded and frightened. I hid in a section that seemed unused. I thought I would be safe until I could heal enough to escape. Then, Jake Morrison found me." "What did he do?" Claire looked at Jake. "He helped me. He cleaned my wound and gave me bandages. He brought me food and water. He asked for nothing in return. He simply saw someone in need and chose to help, even though he knew it could cost him his job." "Did you tell him who you were?" "Not at first. I was scared, and did not know if I could trust anyone. By the time I decided to tell him the truth, he had already been fired." Ben nodded and picked up a data pad. "Princess Claire, do you have any evidence about who ordered the attack on you?" "I do. After I escaped from the embassy, I contacted my people. Our intelligence service investigated. They found communication records showing coordination between my attackers and someone inside the embassy. They also found financial transfers from Keshtar Union accounts to a personal account belonging to Ambassador Velshara." The courtroom exploded. Everyone started talking at once. Magistrate Krelna struck his gavel repeatedly, calling for order. The prosecution team was on their feet, objecting. Velshara, in her estate, stood frozen. Ben Cooper raised his voice. "I request immediate access to embassy communication records and financial documents. This court needs to see the evidence." The prosecution lawyer shook his head. "Those records are protected by diplomatic security protocols." "Not anymore," a new voice said from the back of the courtroom. Everyone turned. Ambassador Eric Stone walked down the aisle, followed by several council security officers. He carried a data chip in his hand. "The Galactic Council has authorized the release of all relevant records," Stone said. "Ambassador Velshara's immunity has been suspended pending investigation. These records show exactly what Princess Claire described. Payments from the Keshtar Union, communications with known assassins, evidence that Velshara knew about Claire's location before Jake found her, and deliberately waited before checking the security footage. He handed the chip to the magistrate. It also shows that all the evidence against Jake Morrison was fabricated. The files were created in the days after his termination, then backdated to look older. Whoever did it was skilled, but not skilled enough to fool a proper forensic analysis. Magistrate Krelna looked at the chip like it might explode. He inserted it into his terminal and began reviewing the files. His crystalline face, usually so unreadable, showed something that might have been shock. Minutes passed in tense silence. Finally, the magistrate looked up. "This court is in recess. Mr. Morrison, you are released immediately. All charges are dropped." He looked at the prosecution team. "A warrant is issued for the arrest of Ambassador Velshara on charges of conspiracy, attempted murder, and obstruction of justice." The courtroom erupted in cheers and arguments. Jake sat in his chair, not quite believing it. Ben Cooper grabbed his shoulder, grinning. Claire smiled from the witness stand. Claire smiled from the witness stand. Security forces were already on their way to Velshara's estate. But when they arrived, they found her trying to board a private ship. She had packed hastily, taking only what she could carry. She never made it off the ground. Draconian fighters intercepted her ship before it cleared the atmosphere. They forced her back to the surface. Back to face justice. The ambassador who had seemed so powerful was now just another criminal being led away in handcuffs. Jake walked out of the courthouse, a free man. The sun was setting, and the draconian ships above cast long shadows across the city. News cameras surrounded him immediately, reporters shouting questions from every direction. Colonial security pushed them back, giving Jake space to breathe. Claire appeared at his side, her wings partially spread to shield him from the crowd. "Come with me," she said quietly. "My father wants to meet you." They walked to her ship together. As they lifted off, Jake looked down at the city he had called home for 3 years. Everything looked different now. He was different now. A simple act of helping someone had changed his entire life. The flight to the Draconian flagship took only minutes. The Dragon's Fury was enormous, up close, bigger than any human ship Jake had ever seen. They landed in a bay filled with smaller craft and military vehicles. Draconian soldiers stood at attention as they passed, their scaled faces showing respect. High Commander Sullivan waited in a large chamber decorated with battle flags and ancient weapons. He was even bigger in person than he had looked on the screens, his armor making him seem like a force of nature. But when he saw Claire, his face softened. "Daughter," he said, embracing her. "You scared me." "I am sorry, father, but it was necessary." Sullivan turned to Jake. For a moment, Jake felt very small under that golden gaze. Then, the commander smiled and offered his hand in the human custom. "Jake Morrison, you saved my daughter's life. That is a debt the Sullivan family takes very seriously." Jake shook his hand, feeling the strength in that grip. "I just did what anyone should do, sir. But most would not have. Most would have followed their rules and let her die." Sullivan gestured for them to sit. "I have a proposition for you. The Draconian sovereignty needs someone who understands both human and alien cultures. Someone who has proven they value life above politics. I want you to become our liaison officer to humanity." Jake blinked. "Sir, I am just a mechanic. You are a person with honor. That is far more valuable than technical skills, though we could use those too." Sullivan leaned forward. "We are rejoining the Galactic Council. After years of isolation, we are coming back into galactic society. We need people we can trust to help us build relationships with other species, especially with humanity. Your people are young in the stars, but you have something special. Heart. What would the job involve? You would work between our governments, helping to establish trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and mutual defense arrangements. You would train others in both cultures. You would be well paid and well respected." Sullivan's eyes held his. "More than that, You would be doing something important, helping to build peace instead of watching it crumble. Jake thought about his empty apartment, his failed job search, the years he had spent just fixing machines. This was a chance to do something that mattered, to turn the worst week of his life into the beginning of something better. I accept, he said. The next few days were busy. Ambassador Velshara's trial began, and the evidence against her was overwhelming. Not only had she arranged the attack on Claire, but investigators found years of corrupt dealings with the Keshtar Union. She had been selling council secrets, delaying diplomatic processes, and working to keep various species divided and weak. Her government was humiliated and quickly cooperated with the prosecution. The Zenthari recalled all their diplomats on New Portland and sent official apologies to both the Draconians and humanity. They promised to reform their intelligence services and end all dealings with the Keshtar Union. Velshara herself sat in a cell not far from where Jake had been held. The irony was not lost on anyone. Her trial was swift. She was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life imprisonment on a neutral world, far from the power and prestige she had craved. With the main conspirator caught, the political situation began to calm. The Keshtar Union, seeing their inside agent exposed and facing a united opposition, agreed to peace talks. Their expansion plans were put on hold. The Galactic Council formally invited the Draconian sovereignty to rejoin as full members. High Commander Sullivan accepted, and Claire was named as the chief ambassador. Her first official act was to propose a formal alliance between the Draconians and humanity. The proposal passed with strong support. Two young species, one ancient and powerful, the other new and energetic, would work together. It was the beginning of something neither could have achieved alone. Jake's new role began immediately. He moved to a joint human-Draconian station in neutral space, a massive facility where both species worked side by side. His technical skills were useful, but as Sullivan had said, his real value was in understanding both cultures. He taught Draconian engineers about human technology and human approaches to problem-solving. He taught human diplomats about Draconian customs and values. He helped resolve misunderstandings before they became conflicts. Ben Cooper, the young lawyer who had represented Jake, received an offer to join the Council's reformed Justice Department. His first assignment was to help write new protections for whistleblowers and those who reported corruption. He accepted eagerly. Colonial Governor Patterson became the Council's special envoy to the Draconian homeworlds. She and High Commander Sullivan developed a strong working relationship built on mutual respect. Ambassador Eric Stone was promoted to lead the new alliance initiative. Under his guidance, human and Draconian scientists began sharing research. Trade routes were established. Military training exercises brought their forces together. For Jake, the changes were sometimes hard to believe. 6 months ago, he had been a simple mechanic, working late shifts in maintenance tunnels. Now he lived on a state-of-the-art station, worked with multiple alien species, and helped shape the future of 2 civilizations. Claire visited often. As chief ambassador, she was busy, but she always made time to check on Jake. They had become close friends, bonded by the experience that had changed both their lives. Sometimes they would sit in the station's observation deck, watching ships from dozens of species pass by peacefully. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked him, one evening. "Regret what?" "Helping me that night. Everything that happened after." Jake thought about the fear, the jail cell, the trial. He thought about losing his job and almost losing his freedom. Then, he thought about everything that had come from that one choice. Peace between species. New friendships. A purpose bigger than himself. "No," he said finally. "I do not regret it at all." Claire spread her wings slightly, a gesture that meant contentment among her people. "My father says that history turns on small moments. A choice one person makes can change everything. You chose to help a stranger in the dark. Look what it became." Jake looked out at the stars, at the ships moving through the void. at the station filled with beings from different worlds, working together. It was bigger than he had ever imagined his life could be. I learned something from all this, he said. Rules and protocols, they are important, but they are not more important than doing what is right. Sometimes you have to choose between following orders and following your conscience. And if choosing your conscience costs you everything, then at least you can live with yourself. Jake smiled. Besides, it worked out pretty well in the end. Claire laughed, a sound like wind chimes. Yes, it did. Though I would not recommend getting arrested as a career strategy. They sat together in comfortable silence, two beings from different worlds who had found friendship in crisis. Outside, the galaxy turned, full of dangers and wonders. But here, on this station, humans and Draconians were learning that their differences made them stronger together. In his quarters later, Jake recorded a message to send back to Earth. He wanted his family to know what had happened, how a simple mechanic had become part of something bigger. As he spoke, he realized that this was just the beginning. There would be more challenges, more misunderstandings, more moments where someone would have to choose between rules and righteousness. But Jake had learned that such moments were when heroes were made. Not people with powers or special skills, but ordinary people who chose to do the right thing even when it was hard. Even when it cost them. Even when they had nothing to gain. He had been that person once, in a dark tunnel, helping a frightened stranger. He had paid a price for that choice. But he had also gained something more valuable than any job or salary. He had gained the knowledge that when it mattered most, he had done the right thing. And that, Jake thought as he finished his message and looked out at the stars, was worth everything. The galaxy was vast and strange and sometimes dangerous, but it was also full of people like Claire, like Ben, like all those who had helped prove his innocence. People who believed in justice and honor and doing the right thing. As long as such people existed, there was hope. And Jake Morrison, former mechanic and current liaison officer, was proud to count himself among them. His story had started with a simple act of kindness. Where it would end, he did not know. But he was ready to find out.